Hi, my name's Al Heilman. I'm a glass artist. I live in Willis, Texas on a lake. Today I'm going to share with you my method of cutting the rim off a drop ring vessel using a wet tile saw. For me, this is reproducible, it's safe, and it's meditative, and I get reproducible results. I initially was taught to score the outside of the glass and run the score and then try and remove the glass by either tapping it with your finger or a small hammer, or alternatively using a Dremel tool with a diamond wheel, squirting water on this. This technique that I currently use gives me reproducible results that are much better than what I originally learned, and I'm sharing those with you today. The first step that I do is to debulk the rim. I let these glass vessels equilibrate with the temperature of the room for at least 2 days before I try and do any type of cold work with them. This glass that's at least an inch thick takes that long for the temperature to reach an equilibration with the room temperature. I then gently and gradually cut off the rim in a segmental fashion, and I debulk the rim glass so I put less stress on my cut line, as you'll see in the next steps. What you can see in this picture is all the pieces of glass that have been removed from the rim. These are by straight cuts, and they have gone all the way around the vessel and taken a significant amount of stress off this area where I'm going to cut so that it's easy to remove. It's surprising how much glass that you remove by doing this. Here I took off 2.4 pounds of glass just from the rim alone. The next thing to look at is exactly where you're going to make your cut. You can see this had a pretty thick blank, and you don't want to make your cut anywhere near where the drop ring top was. You want to go just a little bit below that. So you need to lay that out on a table and put a mark as to where you're going to make this cut. So here I've made a drawing of your vessel. This is the inside of your vessel, and this is how we're going to cut it. We're going to cut it in a segmental fashion. So you can see we've removed the bulk of glass from the edges, and now if we use this stainless steel form to represent our tile saw, we're going to gently put the tile saw not all the way through, which will break the glass, but we're going to remove it in segmental fashions with very thin cuts. You can see how we're going to make a segmental cut here, then we're going to leave a part that is not cut. Then we're going to make another segmental cut, and we'll go all the way around the vessel, making these segmental cuts in gradually increasing depths to the point where these bridges are actually working to hold the vessel top on. Then as we deepen the cut, we narrow these bridges to the point where the vessel completely comes off. This is called segmental cutting after you've thinned the rim. The black lines represent the areas where we're actually going to cut. And you can see the saw will go in and cut this without burying the saw blade all the way into the glass. If you bury the saw blade all the way in, you're going to bind the saw and you'll most likely break your glass. Not a good experience. You don't want to do this. This leads to a bad day and a broken vessel. What I've shown you next is how you can do some practice and some tricks that I use. So I've picked this bottle of wine. It's called Ball Buster, and I think many of us feel like when we go to take a rim off of a vessel, this is not a fun task and we have a lot of fear over it. And what I'm trying to show you is some tricks that I use. First thing I do is I use a elevated object, hold a magic marker on there, and I practice with a wine bottle. I gently turn the bottle around, and that way I get an even line all the way around the bottle. Once that's done, then I make some segmental marks so that I know where I'm going to segmentally cut the bottle. I use wine bottles for practice. They're easily available and they're cheap. You can see the segmental marks that I'm putting on the wine bottle right now. So we're going to take the wine bottle over to the saw. I gently make cuts, you can see, that are very shallow. On a large vessel, I will run my first cut maybe a ½ millimeter deep all the way around the vessel. But in the wine bottle, I'm just showing you how I'm making segmental cuts, skipping and leaving normal glass in between. We go around this bottle several times, and we gradually increase the depth of each of these segmental cuts until they touch, and therefore you take the rim off, or in this case the bottom of the bottle, segmentally without any risk of the glass breaking. As we've progressed, you can see that the saw jumped there, and you can see how my saw blade got deep within the glass. Once the saw blade gets above the diamonds, it will catch, and it can throw the glass and cause a break that could be dangerous to your hands, as well as all the hard work you've put into this vessel. Next, I'm going to share some of my philosophy. One, take your time. There's no hurry. You can stop, you can cut a little, you can rest, or you can do it all at once. Practice. There are days when things don't go right. We all do know that happens in our studios. Those are called heavy gravity days. On those days, do something else, or practice with a wine bottle. Don't do your expensive glass. And the last thing is to always remember safety first. Don't try and do this late at night, especially after a glass of wine or something else. It's really important to practice safety rules, wear safety glasses, and protect your hearing. So you'll see as we go through this vessel, we're going to take the rim off. I'm gradually going around the vessel with a very thin saw cut. What I do this for is so that each time as I segmentally put my saw in, there's a channel for it to go in and I don't get a bunch of jagged edges. This cut is very thin. It's probably the hardest cut of any of the cuts. Just to gently go around, lightly forming a channel for the saw to work in with further cutting. As I go around, if I need to take a rest, take a rest. So once we get this all the way around the vessel, we'll move on to the next steps. You can see that I am gradually deepening the cuts segmentally. I'm not making one cut all at once. I'm just gradually increasing the cuts segmentally in areas that are partly through the glass. I'm not trying to cut through the whole glass all at one time. I'm gently cutting segments. I'm leaving bridges in between, and I go around several different times. This is very controlled, and it should not be something that causes you stress. Because I've taken the big bulk of the glass off of the rim, it takes a lot of the stress off this cut line, and I rarely get a piece of glass that I don't get the cut exactly where I want. You can see how the cuts are not deep. I'm not burying the blade. I'm just gently going around, and also that I have very good lighting. I think it's important that you use every safety feature you can as you go around and work with glass. It's a whole lot of fun, but there are things that can happen. You can see that I have my hands well away from the saw, but I have good visualization. I wear safety glasses and hearing protection as well. So as we gradually increase the cuts, they gradually get wider and wider until the vessel comes loose. And over the process of the last 5 to 6 minutes, I've gradually been increasing these cuts gently, slowly. I'm looking inside after I go around, seeing where I have bridges and bars that I need to cut. You can see that the glass is not being deeply punched into the saw, and I'm not trying to do this in a speedy process. This is a gentle, slowly controlled process, and I'm gradually removing smaller and smaller amounts of these bridges until they're all gone. Once they're all gone, the vessel rim will come off in a very controlled fashion. Do not be afraid to stop at any point. Bending over and doing this, sometimes your back gets tired, as well as your hands. Give yourself a break. Do this when you're very well rested, and you'll have a great result. Makes this removal of these rims nothing to be feared, and you can get reproducible removal without any problem. I'm just about ready to take the rim off here. There it goes. Off we go. So now that it's off, let's look at our drop and let's evaluate how even a drop we had. The rim thickness is about 4.8 millimeters. On most areas around the rim, I use a digital caliper, and the vessel is fairly heavy. It weighs about 4.5 pounds of glass. This is the rim. You can see it came off nicely and easily, and you can see how we segmentally removed a lot of the weight to make this a lot easier. It's been a pleasure spending time with you today. I hope these few tricks that I've learned through many years of working with drop ring vessels will be useful for you. I know so many of my friends asked me to do this for a long time, and so finally it's out there. Removing a drop ring vessel is almost meditative. Thanks for stopping by. If you'd like to see more of my work, you can see me on my website at www.alheilmanart.com. Thanks again, and stay safe during this crazy time in our country with the COVID virus.